Under this canvas cover is one of the best-kept secrets in the automobile business. We hope you'll help us keep it a secret until after the public showings. It's the newest member of the Ford family of fine cars, the Edsel. As you may know, the Edsel will be publicly introduced on September 4th. A great deal of planning has gone into getting ready for that day. And we want you to know about that planning so that you will understand what Edsel means to you as a member of Ford management. That's why we have prepared this management meeting. Before we begin our meeting, I would like to say that I am personally very gratified at reaching this milestone in the development and progress of our company. We have felt for a long time the need for Ford Motor Company to have more effective coverage of the medium-priced field to enable us to reach our competitive goals. By all of us putting our best efforts behind it, we feel that the Edsel program will help us accomplish that aim. And now, here is the Edsel story.
I'm Dick Crafty, General Manager of the Edsel Division, and it's my privilege to be able to bring to you today, with the help of Emmett Judge, who is our Merchandising and Product Planning Manager, the story behind the car under this cover. It's an important story to you as a member of Ford management because it represents a great step in the growth and progress of Ford Motor Company. We want you to see the Edsel a little later. We want you to know the car, its styling, its features, its performance. We want you to be as proud of it as we are, so that you can help us tell the Edsel story all across the country. But before you see it, we want you to know the background, the thinking and ideas and planning that led up to it. Why are we building the Edsel? Why do we need another car line? What do we expect to gain for Ford Motor Company with this new car? How are we going about it? I'm going to ask one of the men who have lived with these questions for a good many months to give you the answers. Emmett Judge.
Thank you, Dick. The Edsel story is a great story. It will become an important part of automobile industry history. And it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience for all of us in Ford management. The company is doing a job in introducing the Edsel that surely we will never do again, and a task which I question we will ever see done again in our lifetimes. It's a big task. As you know, our company is investing $250 million to introduce the Edsel. It's a tremendous program in terms of its financial implications. And that part of it makes it a real challenge to all of you who will have a part in the successful establishment of the Edsel in the American automobile market. Most people are unaware that the Ford Motor Company has been thinking and planning the Edsel car for 10 years. Our roots are not a mere 2 years deep in the company, but in reality 10 years. It was in 1948 that Ford Motor Company first began thinking about the introduction of another car in the medium price field. It was Henry Ford II who originally suggested the idea. But the company had more pressing problems at that time, as you all well know. However, a year later in 1949, we made the first presentation of the proposal to the Executive Committee. At that time, we referred to it not as the Edsel, but as the intermediate car. We received approval of the program and started the styling of the automobile. It was well planned in terms of preliminary engineering in 1950 when the Korean War came along. I'm sure you are all well aware of the impact of that particular event. We could not have sold a single additional automobile by having another car during a war-directed economy. We discontinued the program, although a great deal of study went on in the meantime. Finally, in the fall of 1954, the program was represented to the Executive Committee. The designation E-Car program was attached to the undertaking at that time, and active styling work was started in late 1954. The program was approved by the Board of Directors on April 15, 1955. In the 2 years that followed, we completed the styling and engineering of the car, created an organization which now totals 1,500 people, and have underway the creation of a dealer organization. The big event we are all waiting for is the culmination of not only 2 years of work and development, but the satisfaction of completing a job of some 10 years' duration. That's very briefly the history of the Edsel program. But many people ask me, and I'm sure they ask you because you are associated with the Ford Motor Company, why have we undertaken such a program? Why are we investing $250 million in a risk venture of this type? Our answer to that is that Ford has a real sense of responsibility in being a part of the things that are occurring in America today. And even more important, we want to be a part of the growth and potential that lie ahead in this great country of ours. Let's look at some of the things that are happening in America. In 1945, there were some 140 million Americans. Yet in the 10 years following the war, we grew to 165 million. Since the last successful introduction of a car in America, the Mercury in 1938, 65 million Americans have been born. To them, the introduction of a new automobile will be a new event. But more importantly, let's look at the future. Statisticians estimate that by 1965, the American population will total approximately 190 million. To us in this industry and this company, more people mean more automobiles, because the automobile is an essential part of American living. Putting together this growth in terms of people with economic growth, you particularly see the significance of things to come in America. Back in 1945, we had a gross national product just over 215 billion. Gross national product, as you know, is the measure of total productivity in America. By 1955, we had grown to 375 billion. In 1956, we were well over 400 billion. And this year, we are running along at a rate of around 427 billion. By 1965, even the most conservative estimates indicate that we will have a gross national product of somewhere around 535 billion. When you add that to growth in terms of people, it means the purchase of more automobiles. In 1955, we had the biggest year in the industry, really a bonanza for all of us. Americans spent $19 billion for new automobiles. Yet when you compare this with what is going to happen in 1965, it becomes small. By 1965, we estimate it will be somewhere around $26 billion, because there will be more people with more economic resources to buy more automobiles. These basic economic factors indicate briefly and simply why the Ford Motor Company wants to be an important part of the growth of this industry. Back in 1945, there were 26 million cars on the road. A lot of people thought if we ever reached 30 million, we would bump up against the ceiling. Yet the industry doubled the car population, 50 million cars by 1956. Today, we are still growing. By 1965, there will be some 70 million cars on the road in America. The potential owners of these cars are here today. We can count them. In addition, the great movement to suburbia has made the automobile an essential part of our living and created the need for a second car, a pattern that was unheard of and unthought of 15 or 20 years ago. It is this tremendous growth in people and economics and the importance of the automobile in American living today that is the one important reason our company is embarking on this program of introducing a new car to the motoring public. Because you are a part of the company and the industry, you know the structure of the automobile market. You know that in the low price field there are three principal makes, one for Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler. We have about the same number of models as Chevrolet and Plymouth, and we each have about the same number of dealers. When you examine the medium price market, you find an entirely different pattern. Ford Motor Company has only one product, the Mercury. General Motors has three, Pontiac, Oldsmobile, and Buick. Chrysler has its three, Dodge, DeSoto, and Chrysler. The deficiency in the market is evident for our company. In the high price field, a pattern very much like the low price field exists. Each of us has a product, and we each sell through about the same number of dealers. The big gap is in the medium price field. And because of this lack of equal participation in the medium price market, our company has been predominantly a low-price car producer. For example, 80% of our volume is in the Ford car, and 20% of our sales are in the other markets. This is in sharp contrast to General Motors, where 50% of their business is with the Chevrolet and 50% with the cars in the medium and high price field. About the same pattern exists for Chrysler. Ford Motor Company needs another product in the medium price field to compete effectively in the growing and broadening automobile market. This is particularly important when you examine what is happening in the medium price area. Today, as was true during 1956, 55, and 54, over 60% of the sales in the automotive market have been in this medium price area. The 60% represents not only the sales of cars that are traditionally in this area, but also the sale of products from the low price field, which are actually priced in the medium area. For example, the upper models of Ford Fairlane, the Chevrolet Bel Air, and Plymouth Belvedere. The automobile market is a churning, moving market. About 40% of the new car market each year is made up of individuals who are changing makes. They may be moving from one market to another or changing makes in the same market. But whatever the reason, they are making a change in product ownership. The real significant aspect of this pattern to us is what happens particularly to people who own cars in the low price field. We would like to have the young man entering his first job buy a Ford used car. Then as he gets established, we want him to move on and buy a new Ford car. As this same fellow moves along in life, he will be among those to move into a car in the medium price field. Here again, we want him to stay with a Ford Motor Company product. Today, we have only the Mercury in this price field. Those who find higher success in life move into the prestige field. We want these people to own a Lincoln. That's the ideal pattern. Actually, it doesn't occur. And the reasons it doesn't occur are real significant and important to all of us and the job we are doing in bringing out the Edsel. Here is what happens. If you look at the ownership of some 50 million cars on the road today, you will find about the same number of Chevrolets and Fords. But what happens to these owners as they tend to buy up into the medium price field? The Ford owner has only one product to move to in moving into the medium price market, the Mercury. The owner of a Chevrolet car can stay in the General Motors family by moving into a Pontiac, Oldsmobile, or Buick. Why do people move up from a Ford or Chevrolet to a medium price car? They move because they want a car in an area of the market where they have an opportunity to express more individuality. General Motors is able to give them a choice of purchase which we cannot with only one product. Here is the most startling thing that happens. Of the Chevrolet owners who buy up into the medium price field, 87% of them stay with the General Motors Corporation family of cars. This is in contrast to the pattern in Ford, where only 26% of our graduating Ford owners stay with us and buy a Mercury. And the real clincher is that those who do not stay in the Ford family move over and buy a General Motors car in the medium price field. We give the three cars in the medium price field of General Motors about 2.4% of the industry every year, with these owners of ours who are leaving Ford and moving to General Motors ownership. This is a pattern we want to change, and it will be accomplished with the introduction of the Edsel car. Now, what about the movement of automobile owners within the entire corporation? 82% of the owners in General Motors stay with the corporation family of cars from year to year. Now, here is what happens in Ford Motor Company. Ford retains about 69% of its owners from year to year. We do this with three products, in contrast to the 5 for General Motors, which is actually an admirable job. But what will happen with the addition of the Edsel to this pattern? It is our estimate that the company will then be able to retain somewhere around 74% of our ownership from year to year. By establishing the Edsel, we broaden Ford Motor Company ownership in the medium price field. Many people ask, where is the Edsel going to be priced? Is it going to be between this make and another make? The question cannot be answered that way. The answer is that the Edsel car is going to compete across the broad reaches of the medium price market in the same manner that other products do in that area today. That is the simple answer and the honest answer in terms of the pattern in the market today. For example, our various series of Edsels will compete with the Pontiacs, the Oldsmobiles, and the Buicks. The big task that is now underway in the Edsel division is the establishment of a dealer organization in the field. From the more than 4,500 inquiries we have received, we expect to select about 1,200 dealers by introduction time this fall. Ultimately, we will grow to about 3,200 dealers, comparable to other competitors in the medium price field. This growth in franchises will give Ford Motor Company broader coverage of the market in terms of our relationship with General Motors. One big job we have done in the Edsel division in the last 2 years has been to take a full look at the individual we call customer. In developing a new car and marketing it, we had to know a lot about this fellow. What makes him tick? Particularly, why does he buy cars in the medium price field? Why does he buy the particular make he buys? How strongly does he feel about it? What causes him to make the decisions he makes? How is he going to feel and react to buying a new car, a new make on the market? All of these things are important to us. They are difficult things to get a hold of because many of them are intangible and psychological in their implications. It almost means stepping into his mind and finding out what motivates him. We wanted to find out how people felt about the competitive makes in the market. We asked them many questions and we probed many ways. We found out such things as which makes appeal to older men and which to younger, which are liked best by women. How are these makes associated with social status? How do people think of the various cars in terms of appearance, workmanship, trade-in value, performance, and so forth? From all this mass of data and knowledge of competitive cars we gathered, we were able to frame the requirements for the Edsel to achieve the objectives established for the car. The objectives of the Edsel car can be summarized briefly. To get greater coverage of the medium price market for the Ford Motor Company. To ensure greater retention of the Ford upgraders who move up every year to the medium price field. To keep more people in the Ford family. Broader retention in terms of corporate loyalty. To have more dealers selling more products made by Ford. All of these are going to accomplish more volume for the company. Not just Edsel alone, but more volume for the Ford Motor Company as a whole. Now with these objectives and knowledge of the competitive market, and these reactions and desires of the buying public, what kind of product should the Edsel be? We asked ourselves this question over 2 years ago because we wanted to determine and establish the kind of product that would do the job and do it most effectively. Here's the definition established for the Edsel product. The Edsel should be the smart car for growing America. It's not just words, it's a great definition in terms of what it has meant to us in carrying the program forward. To accomplish this purpose, the Edsel car had to be distinctive in appearance. It had to be different, yet not radically different to make an impact as a new product. It had to have discreet appointments. It had to have graceful styling, because we were convinced that most people like clean, flowing lines and design. We needed a car with advanced features and one that will be fully competitive in the highly competitive market of which we will be a part when we introduce this fall. We believe that we have achieved this goal in the product. I hope that now, as you see the Edsel, both the car and the program will have more meaning to you. Gentlemen, that is the Edsel story.
And now for the moment I'm sure you've all been looking forward to. A look at the newest member of the Ford family of fine cars, the Edsel. Edsel, the car that is already making automotive history for Ford Motor Company. A new and different car in every respect, yet with a classical element of conservatism in its styling, which will give it maximum appeal. Its flowing, graceful lines, sculptured into the sheet metal, are clean and dignified. Yet it is excitingly different from anything on the road today. The car you are looking at here is the Citation, the top series in the Edsel line. In addition, as you know, we will offer 3 other series. the Ranger, the Pacer, and the Corsair, which will compete right across the medium price market. Edsel will offer in its 4 series a total of 18 body styles, including a full line of station wagons. Every one of them will be tops in its field in styling, performance, and features. Here are some of the new features which will be introduced in the Edsel this fall. This is our teletouch transmission control. You can drive the Edsel, park it, and reverse it with ease. A flick of the teletouch button makes an electrical contact, and a motor engages the transmission. This instrument cluster follows the most advanced automotive developments. We've placed all instrument switches and warning signals for convenience and visibility. This dial temp heater and ventilation control tunes in temperature, ventilation, and even optional air conditioning. In place of the old-fashioned knobs, you select the climate you want with a twist of the wrist. These visual reminders help you watch oil pressure, fuel level, oil level, and engine temperature. They also tell whether the generator is charging and whether the emergency brake is off. Preset this dial at the speed you want. When you exceed this speed, the speedometer dial lights up red in warning. A big reason for the outstanding performance of the Edsel is the E475 engine in this citation. The engine is named for the 475 foot-pounds of torque it develops. This torque is usable power, another top-selling feature of the Edsel. You'll want to take a closer look at the Edsel so that you can help tell America about the newest car in the Ford family. Edsel cars will go on display in advance of public showings in most company locations beginning August 27th. Don't miss seeing it.
Well, there it is, very briefly. The Edsel story and the Edsel car. We're proud of it, and we hope you are too. I'm sure all of the members of Ford management understand the Edsel program better after hearing the story and seeing the car. But I would like to add this. Although Edsel Division is telling you this story, we didn't write all of it. Of course, the operating committee of Edsel Division has done a fine job in helping to bring us to this point in our history. I'd like you to meet them. Neil Bloom, Chief Product Engineer. Bob Collins, Manufacturing Manager. John Cooney, Industrial Relations Manager. Larry Doyle, General Sales and Marketing Manager. Emmett Judge, whom you have met. Dick Halleck, General Purchasing Agent. Ben Lackey, Controller. And Gail Warnock, Public Relations Manager. Each of these men in his own field has contributed a great deal to making our program a success. But the Edsel program is more than an Edsel Division program. It is a Ford Motor Company program. And it could never have been developed without the earnest and talented work of a lot of people. For example, the styling office under Bill Ford and George Walker, with Elwood Engel and Roy Brown, played vital roles in the styling of the Edsel. We are also grateful for the job which has been done by the engineering staff under the direction of Earl McPherson, Vice President and Advisor, Engineering Policy, and Andy Kuchar, Vice President, Engineering and Research. You have seen some of the new mechanical and electrical features developed through the cooperative efforts of the engineering staff and other engineering activities throughout the company, all of which will contribute to the success of the Edsel. These men represent literally thousands of people in Ford Motor Company staff and all of the divisions who have contributed to the program with their work, talents, and ideas. Obviously, I can't name them all, much as I would like to. But I would like to take this opportunity to express the sincere appreciation of the Edsel division to all of them. We have referred to the Edsel program in this meeting as the culmination of 10 years of planning and development, and it is. But it is not an ending in any sense. It is a beginning, the beginning of a great deal of work and effort on the part of every one of us to make the introduction of this new car a success. The job has just begun, and I know we can count on every one of you to make it a continuing success story. The Edsel story, which you have just seen, is the story of Ford Motor Company's faith in the future. I think it is very appropriate that we now hear from a man who has been a symbol of that kind of thinking in our management team. It is my pleasure to present Mr. Ernest R. Breach, Chairman of the Board, with his own message to close our meeting. Mr. Breach.
How do you do, gentlemen? You've heard the Edsel story. You've seen the product. I hope you're as enthusiastic about the car and about the job it can do for Ford Motor Company as we are. The introduction of the Edsel next month will be a historic step forward for our company in our efforts to achieve competitive leadership in the industry. At the same time, this program was undertaken with a full recognition of the financial risks involved. We believe that the car has the styling that will appeal to the buying public. But every Edsel from the beginning must be the highest quality in the industry if the car is to be a success. Every purchaser of an Edsel car will either be a satisfied or a dissatisfied customer, depending upon that quality. Now, we've come a long way in the last 10 years or so, for which full credit is due to you members of this management team. If that were not true, we'd not be having this meeting because there would be no Edsel car. We would not have had the money, the facilities, the manpower, or the management know-how to tackle this tremendous job had it not been for our progress during the past decade. Management in every phase of our operations has contributed to that progress. With better manufacturing and assembling processes, with higher quality and lower costs, with better style and better engineered products, with an effective sales organization in the field, and with better human relations in our plants and offices. Together, we've made great progress. Our accomplishments, fortunately, have far outweighed our mistakes. But the road ahead is just as challenging and just as tough. And the rewards for intelligent planning and hard work are even more promising. There is no question in my mind that with your cooperation, Ford Motor Company will continue to grow and prosper. The Edsel, the car you have just seen and heard about, will play an important part in the challenge of the future. With all of us behind the program, I have every confidence that starting with the first public showings in September, Edsel is going to make a bigger and bigger place for itself on the American road and contribute to the next decade of growth of the Ford Motor Company, in which all of us, every one of us, has a real personal stake.